Going to be starting a Dynasty podcast soon on the Fantasy Six Pack. We're going to do every Wednesday night at 9:30. It's going to be a live show, so you can tune in, join a chat.
Heck yeah, and I know you're on a couple other pods. You're on a pod with me. I'm looking forward to doing that with you. Hey, our guest tonight, we got Corey Piper. You know him. You know him over on the Fantasy Six Pack. He works on Fantasy Pros. He actually is on that In This League podcast. Jamie, you remember He-Man? You ever watch He-Man when you were a kid?
Of course. Everyone watched He-Man.
I traveled to the depths of Eternia, and I rock climbed up Castle Grayskull to find Corey tonight. He was gracious enough to come out here with his power sword. He was so gracious enough to show us the running back orders, the tier orders, so we can have an offensive podcast. We've been doing IDP forever today, so it's just nice to get out of that nutshell. You know what I mean? Corey was third place last year in the Scott Fishbowl. Third place, dude. So
that's
we
4,000 people. 4,000 people. Third place. That's incredible.
So if we're going to talk offense, I just figure you two would be the best guys, the most qualified guys to talk to. What's going on, Corey?
Not a whole lot here. Just grinding away. We are rapidly approaching the NFL Combine, so got stuff to update there. And then the draft. I think I might go, actually. It's not that far away from – I live in Wisconsin, so I might actually go and see it live this year.
Heck yeah, that'd be sweet, huh?
It would be sweet.
Hey, we got news, don't we? All three of us were working on a magazine, aren't we?
Just dropped today, I believe. Yeah.
We are indeed. Yeah. I think it's like nearly 300 players graded between the three of us, between quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. And then you guys did just dominated the defense, interior, edge, linebacker, cornerback, safety, however you want to know. You check it out there, right on the Fantasy Six Pack.
How neat is that, too? I don't think no one has a draft out this early. I don't think anybody has these videos out as early as we do. You know what I mean? But if the audience was to check out the draft guide, it's on the Fantasy Six Pack. And I'm going to add one more. I do an article called The Combine Cheat Codes. If you guys want to check that out, I have each position, what to look for, what not to look for. Of course, you know, Corey, I went off the deep end a little bit, and I kind of went for advanced stats this year, what to look at for defense, linebackers. But, you know, I got some good offense in here too, you know.
I read it last year. I'll have to read it again. I read it last year. I haven't read it this year yet. So
it's amazing that no one has never done that before. So I kind of like working over here with you guys, the Six Pack, kind of putting our own authenticity on stuff. And speaking of authenticity, your running back list is phenomenal, Corey. Jamie, I haven't really talked to you about this. He's talked me off the bridge several times on certain players. So I'm just going to give the floor to you, my friend. Tell us what you think about the running back class in general.
Oh, this is a good one. This is a very good running back class. It's been a couple of years since we had one this good. Of course, everyone knows by now, if you've done any research at all, you've heard of Ashton Genty. He's going to go in the top 15 picks, I think, of the first round of the NFL draft. And nearly every fantasy draft, he should go at the 1.1. So you should know that by now. There's not a lot more I need to say, I don't think. But it's the depth of the class. I have 27 draftable grades right now for running back, which is a ton. Usually I don't get that many. I actually think there's probably a couple more that if I do, I haven't done Jaden Blue yet, for example, and Corey Krosky-Merritt, who I think will probably get there. Probably be pretty late, but I could get to like 30 maybe, which is really deep. So the top end is good. The depth is better.
Yeah, even if 50% of these people hit, that's going to be a great class.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, yes. So, question for you. You know, when we first started doing this, you know, I think I've done like 30 mocks now. Jamie, you've done more than I have, right?
Probably
when we first started doing, how many?
I don't know, 40, 50. I don't count.
When we first started doing this thing, you know, I was convinced, and that's why it's always good to check in. I was convinced, I'm like, yo, you know, Gentry's the prize. That's the guy you want. Everybody from 2 to 6, it's about the same. And like I said, Corey talked me off the bridge with his RB2. He's like, dude, you might want to check out Hampton a little bit more. I mean, you got some pretty interesting player comps to Hampton, don't you?
Yeah, I have Omarion Hampton as this standalone tier 2 player. So Ashton Genty is tier 1 by himself, but I have Omarion Hampton standalone tier 2. I mean, he's so thickly built, but it doesn't hold him back from accelerating past pretty much any defender. His ability to get skinny for a big guy to get through a hole that isn't there is the best in the class, including Genty. If there isn't a hole there, he can still get extremely thin and pick up yardage. He doesn't miss the initial hole. Sometimes when he gets a little bit downfield, the cutbacks, he has a little bit of an issue there. Bit of a fumbling problem. If you're worried about him staying on the field, he's the best. He's the second best pass blocker in this class. The second best one for me. He is just stonewalling guys out there. So
if I'm not mistaken, your player comp was the Breece Hall, right?
I have a combination of Breece Hall and Nick Chubb. That is what
wow.
I have.
I love that.
I think that he's just phenomenal. Look at the dude run. Tell me that he isn't great at it, because he's just going to eat up yardage. I think he might go in the first round. You know where I want to see him get drafted? The Pittsburgh Steelers at 22 to replace Najee Harris.
Ooh,
I think he would be
awesome.
A phenomenal fit there. And he should, if that's the case, he should go. You could make the case to take him ahead of Ted McMillan, who's going to be the top receiver, which would be number 2 in the fantasy draft.
Yeah, I also have Hampton as my number 2.
Yeah,
Dude's like
have 1, 2, and 3, right?
My 3 at running back. So
no, I was saying that's why I have it in draft. Yeah.
Oh, yes. That should go the way most drafts go.
Yeah, because I'm taking Hampton over Ward and Superflex mocks right now. I mean, the dude's like, he's violent. Like, he can finish those runs. He's got that elite burst, reliable hands. I mean,
I would take Omarion Hampton over Cam Ward in a Superflex draft.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Jamie had something smart about the quarterbacks. He's like, dude, Superflex 1 QB, it doesn't change much, does it? It just moves them up and down just slightly. But the cream of the crop this year is running back. What, we got 5 projected to go in the first round of our fantasy drafts?
That is most of the time. I believe you'll get 5. You might sneak a 6th in there, but I think you'll get 5 pretty much every time, which gets me to my 3rd tier, but this is a group of 3. That'd be Caleb Johnson for me, the running back from Iowa. And
wow,
then
that's
the 2
my
Ohio
3rd
State
too.
guys. Then the 2 Ohio State guys. So I have Travion Henderson 4. It is by a razor-thin margin over Quinshon Judkins. If someone wants to debate it, I'm not going to lose sleep and fight you too much about it, because I think they're both phenomenal. But Caleb Johnson, another bigger back, but he moves so much better than you expect for a player that size. It's not a ton of home run speed. I don't think he's going to bust off 50-yard rushes in the NFL, but tons of doubles, right? He's going to have 20-yarders here, 20-yarders there. I wish we saw a little bit more pass catching prowess out of him, but he played on an abysmal Iowa offense, abysmally bad, where everyone and their grandmother knew Caleb Johnson's going to get this ball 25 times, and they still couldn't stop him. They couldn't stop him. He'd be great in a zone scheme. I think that's probably where he would be best, with his ability to hunt the backside for plays and to look for gaps. Another one, just a big physical back who can pick up yards. My comp for him, so I don't always love comps. If you listen to the In This League one, you'll hear me talk about it, but I do think running back and cornerback are the 2 best spots for comps. I have Zach Charbonnet for Caleb Johnson as this big physical back who can pick up yards downfield. And yes, he's not the biggest burner, but I think, if Kenneth Walker wasn't in Seattle, Zach Charbonnet would be viewed as the top 10, 15 back in Dynasty pretty clearly. And I think Caleb Johnson, if he gets in the right spot, he could very easily go in the top half of the first round of a Dynasty draft.
It's funny you say this, because player comps, I'm not really a big fan of them either. I'm more concerned on how player schemes and whatnot. But interior defensive linemen and running backs, those are the first types of positions I profile, because you want to know the way those guys move. It doesn't change a whole lot. The team's going to develop around them. I like what you said so far. Your tier 1, your tier alpha is Gentry. Your tier 1 Bravo's Hampton. And in this weird tier, originally when we did this is all before the Senior Bowl. I wanted to pick your brain. You had 4 other guys in there. So your top 6 would be after Hampton. You had Caleb Henderson, Quentin Johnson, and then you had Cam Skataboo. Do you still have him in there, or did you change a little bit?
So he fell to the top of the next tier for me. I bumped him out of tier 3 to he is the start of tier 4 for me now. So
gotcha. I mean, that tier 3 though, you had what? It was a 0.12 difference as far as ADP goes between those guys. Really, dealer's choice.
it's razor thin. If you wanted to tell me that you're taking Quinshon Judkins even over Caleb Johnson, I'm not going to sit and fight anybody with it. It's not the way that I play. They are close enough players to me that I think that is perfectly fine. TreVeyon Henderson is the big player of the three. Like that's what, if you want to shoot for the biggest upside, I think it's TreVeyon Henderson. If he had gone out for the NFL draft in 2024, last year's class, he would have been the first running back taken. There's very little doubt in my mind he would have been the first running back taken, but he battled a foot injury all year. So he came back to prove his foot was healthy, and it looked really healthy. I mean, I think unlike, if you told me Caleb Johnson and Amari Hampton right away start getting 20 carries a game, that doesn't surprise me. I don't think we'll ever see TreVeyon Henderson do that. I think it's more the way that Miami deploys Devon Achane, where it only takes him 10, 12 to 15 touches a game, but he can make such big plays happen with it that's how TreVeyon Henderson's going to win. Judkins is just great. Judkins, the contact balance on Quinshon Judkins is ridiculous. His ability to bounce off tackles, so few wasted steps where doesn't waste time getting upfield, and he's a master of the hidden yardage. Like nothing is blocked, he'll find 2 yards. You're tackling him, he leans forward, he picks up an extra yard and a half. That's what's really good about Quinshon Judkins. I wish we had seen him get a few more passing reps too, because TreVeyon Henderson was there. He just never really got a whole lot of pass catching reps. And even when before he transferred to Ohio State, he was at Ole Miss. His best year was his amazing freshman year, but they didn't throw the ball then to him a lot either. So we have not seen a lot of that. And I do have a little bit of concern with Quinshon Judkins' vision. That's what bumps him below those guys for me, but it's so close, man. If you want Quinshon Judkins at 3, go ahead.
Yeah, Judkins, his long speed worries me a little bit too on Judkins.
Yeah.
But I think Henderson, he could be a workhorse back, but he works well in a tandem. So I'm thinking if he goes to Chicago and has like a, 60% workload with Roschon, maybe getting the other 40%, that would be an awesome situation for him.
Jamie, out of those 5 running backs that he's already mentioned, those are all in our first round of drafts. Like one way or another, dealer's choice. But that's the way I have it too. The Caleb Henderson, Quentin, and then you're saying Scatabo starts the next round. Who do you have in that next round? I guess this would be your tier 4.
Yep. So the tiers start to get a little bigger now. This is now a tier of 6 names. So Scatabo starts it. I have Devin Neal, LaQuint Allen, Kyle Monangai, DJ Giddens, Dylan Sampson, and Brashard Smith. So just quick on some of these guys. Cam Scatabo, I've seen people say this guy is the next Toby Gerhart. I've seen people saying he's the next Christian McCaffrey. I'm here to tell you he's somewhere in the middle, right? He's not going to be – he's a better player than Toby Gerhart. He is not Christian McCaffrey. He's got physical limitations that are going to get him caught from behind. He also has phenomenal hands. I mean, incredible hands for a big player like that. They will use him split out wide. So I like Scatabo. He's the first one, and that's kind of the start of this tier, where I want to see where these guys land. Like, you can tell me that any of those top 5 players, I think they can be successful in just about any offense. Cam Scatabo, I want to see where he lands.
I think Neal is the one I was going to ask you about, because I've been kind of talking him up for like 2 years now. He's finally coming out of college. What do you see with this guy, and how do you have that tier ranked exactly? Where do you see Neal?
Neal's right behind Scatabo for me. So overall, that makes him my running back 7, I believe. Yes, running back 7. I think people underestimate the speed on Devin Neal. You see a lot of times where he doesn't look that fast, but he moves really well, and he'll eliminate the angle. You think a safety has him, and he just runs right by him. I'm not sure that he has the ceiling of some of these other backs. Like, I don't know if he can do some of the things that TreVeyon Henderson can physically do. He isn't as strong as Omari and Hampton, but he's incredibly productive. Another one, they gave him 41 carries this season and 1 game against Colorado. Everyone knew what was going to happen. Colorado couldn't stop him. He ran for 280 in that game. Great job of falling forward, runs through arm tackles like they're not even there. I just want to know where his speed settles. Here's my comp for him, and you guys tell me what you think on this one. I think it's ideal Kareem Hunt. When Kareem Hunt was at his best, that's what Devin Neal can be.
Yeah, I see a little Kareem Hunt in these highlights as well. For those that can't see my screen, those on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, welcome in. We're literally on YouTube. We're talking football with Corey and Jamie, and I'm just pulling up some game film here. But yeah, I like Devin Neal as a prospect as well. Of course, Senior Bowl, I was expecting a little bit more out of this guy. But as your 7, Can't really argue that. What says you, Jamie?
Going on Scatabo, he's going to test poorly, but we've seen a few other people test poorly that had success in the NFL. Kyron Williams, he fell in drafts because he didn't test well. Bucky Irving,
Yeah.
he tests bad and he has success. So I can see him kind of going on that kind of route where we're going to get him in like the third round of drafts, and he's going to be a value in the third round.
Gotcha. Hey, before we go to this, talk about the rest of this tier, I'm going to take a little detour real quick. There's a guy that's commonly drafted as an RB7. It's not Corey's number 7, but it's a lot of ours on here. I guess he's a player you got to take a line in the sand for. When you're at RB7, RB9, Ollie Gordon's name comes up all the time. Some people love this guy. Some people trash this guy. I guess the term would be, would you coin there, Corey? Ollie Gordonstan? What side of Ollie Gordonstan are you on? Are you in the north or are you defending the south? What says you?
I'll be the rebel there because if everybody's putting him at 7, I'm definitely not. I have Ollie Gordon currently about, I think he's RB18 for me. So
Wow.
If I had going into last summer, I had Ollie Gordon at RB, I think 4 going into the summer, but it was a miserable year. It started with an off-field DUI, right? Then he gained weight, which isn't always a bad thing, but he just looked slow. It did not look like the same running back for big chunks of the season. It took about the end of October. He finally had a good game, but I think he had 4 games this season where he ran for over 4 yards a carry. You can't do that. You cannot do that. I don't care if you're in the Big 12. I don't care if you're in the MAC. You cannot run for that type of level. And he just did not look good. Now, the Senior Bowl came out. He looked a little better there at practice. He looked better than he did during the season, but he was always extremely patient. Like 2023, you watch Ollie Gordon, and he's patient, and then he explodes to the hole. It is the Le'Veon Bell, I'm going to wait for this hole to develop, and then I'm going to hit it. 2024, he's indecisive. There's a difference. 2023, patient, and I'm going to go 2024. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not fast enough to explode into this hole anymore, and I'm indecisive. So if an NFL team says, we can fix this, he can cut weight, we can get him back to 2023, I could see an NFL team being aggressive with him. I don't see it. I think they're going to look at 2024 and say, Ollie Gordon, you're a third-round developmental pick. And because of that, I know I'm not going to get him in any fantasy drafts, and I'm fine with that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Jamie, defend Ollie Gordon. This is your chance on the gloves.
He's right, though. I can't really argue anything about that, but I'm not reaching for Ollie Gordon. Like, if he falls to me to a certain spot, yeah, I'm going to take him.
Where would you take him? RB8, 7, 9? That it's somewhere in there, right?
He's like, I mean, I'd rather probably have like Dylan Sampson, Neal, obviously like the top guys we talked about.
Can I throw some other names at you? RJ Harvey or Ollie Gordon?
Yeah, I was gonna say RJ Harvey. I might rather have
Damien Martinez or Ollie Gordon.
That was my next guy. I was gonna say that's gonna be a toss up. I'd probably go Gordon depending on his landing spot, and let's see where Martinez goes. I mean, I can see Gordon being like that Brian Robinson Jr. type running back where he's not really going to be an RB1 or a high-end RB2, but he's going to be like a startable asset if he falls in the right spot. So
here's my issue with Ollie Gordon. Yes, can you be Brian Robinson? That's fine, sure. But for every Brian Robinson, there's an A.J. Dillon, and I could see him being A.J. Dillon.
Okay, I can see that too.
So it's just those big body running backs that run tall like that, you have got to be able to break tackles. Like, I think Damien Martinez can do that better than Ollie Gordon because he's also just a huge, I think he weighed 225 at the Senior Bowl, which is actually smaller than I thought he would weigh. But I think Damien Martinez can break more tackles than Ollie Gordon. That's why I will take him ahead of Ollie Gordon.
So like A.J. Dillon. I've been fooled on A.J. Dillon too many times. Mm-hmm. So if you're saying that, comparing him to Ollie Gordon, and we've seen him at the Senior Bowl. I mean, 3-yard scoots here and there. I wasn't that impressed. I know all the articles came out, oh, great, showing Ollie Gordon. I didn't buy it either. So I'm kind of on the other side of the Ollie Gordon stand. So
there's a guy you're probably going to bring up later. He's already 24 years old. If Ollie Gordon was 24 and Woody Marks was 21, I would take Woody Marks way over Ollie Gordon.
Marks will be 25 by the time the season starts. So that's
no,
even
not
worse.
quite. He'll be 25 like around December, I think.
That's even still, yeah. So he was reported at 23 when this thing first started. Corey, question for you though. We got the 6, 7 off the board. If Neil's your 7, people like Gordon around the 8, right? The rest of this tier, you got guys like Giddens, you said, Sampson, Rashad Smith. You got a couple sleepers in here too, right? 1 or 2 guys that probably aren't even on sleeper yet. How do you rank the rest of this tier 4?
Yeah, I don't believe LeQuint Allen, Kyle Monangai are even on sleeper yet. I have not done nearly as many mocks as you guys. I think I've done maybe 10. So I've been getting those guys. I think I can get Kyle Monangai in the last round because nobody knows about him, which is fine. I'll take him every day of the week. I'll take him. I'd take him in the 3rd round, but I don't have to right now. So we'll see when he becomes actually a name in there. I'll worry about it more. LeQuint Allen, you guys want to talk about age? I think LeQuint Allen is the youngest running back in this draft. He is still just 20 years old. I actually didn't expect him to go out for the NFL draft for that very reason, but he came out early, and I don't know. I don't know why there's not more hype on LeQuint Allen yet. He is probably the best pass catcher in this class. They line him up all over the place. They will line him up outside. He catches everything. Syracuse runs that's where he went. Syracuse runs a lot of slow developing run plays. So they run him essentially slow mesh, they call it, and they have the full offensive line pull in front of him. He has great timing for knowing when to hit the hole. 1 career fumble, that's great. Pushes a pile with a leg drive. I think there's an interesting ball carrier in the LeQuint Allen. Like you said, you got time on your side, man. He's 20 years old. That's Braylon Allen age from last year. So you got plenty of time. I will take all the shares of LeQuint Allen, and if I can get him in the 3rd round, back of the 2nd round, early in the 3rd round, all day, every day. Kyle Monangai at Rutgers. So this dude, I was talking about how Amarian Hampton's the 2nd best pass blocker. Let's start with the pass blocking. If you haven't seen Kyle Monangai pass block and you're like, oh, there's a fantasy show, type it in because this dude is leveling brothers out there. And that's amazing, first off. But then he's so rocked up, like he's jacked. He plays at a school where he rarely gets clean lanes at Rutgers, but he'll finagle his way to these positive runs in the tiniest of gaps because he has ridiculous patience. And then he knows how to set up blocks downfield. Another one, I wish we saw some catching reps. That's going to happen at the combine, hopefully. But he's probably my favorite player in this class at finding 4 yards when there's nothing there because he's so physical. He's got the stiff arm. He's seeking out physicality, but he just never gets a chance to catch the ball. But when those two get into the pool at sleeper, I'm assuming they'll go up. But right now, if you're drafting early, you can get these guys in 4th, 5th round, and you should consider that stealing because it is unfair how good they are.
Right. That's one comment that I would have had too with the way the draft is this year. You're getting players in the 3rd, 4th round. It's just good and plenty. Same thing at wide receiver this year. We're going deep, 4th, 5th round, just pulling stuff. Sleeper can't keep up with us, right, this year. They really can't. Hey, question, just to recap your top 14 here. We got Gentry, Hampton, Caleb, Henderson, Quentin Johnson, Scattaboo, Neil, not yours, but Gordon falls in there usually. And then after that, there's a bit of a calling your shot with LeQuint Allen. How do you say his name?
Monangai.
I think you said Giddens, DJ Giddens, then Sampson, then Brayshawn Smith.
Yep.
After that, what do you go? You go RJ Harvey, right?
RJ Harvey is next. After that, he starts what would that tier be? The 6th tier, I guess we're in here.
Yeah, 6 tiers, and that's 14 RBs deep. So when you're at this point, you're calling your shots. But who do you like outside of those top 14 after that?
And that's the thing, man. There's still good running backs down here. Like RJ Harvey's a very talented running back. He's a little small, but he can catch the ball. He's extremely productive in a UCF offense. I like Jarquez Hunter at Auburn, very physical back. We already sort of talked about Damien Martinez. I have him in this class. Trevor Etienne of Georgia. So if he hadn't gotten hurt, because he missed a substantial amount of this season injured. And yes, it is, for those of you who don't know, it is Travis Etienne's brother. But he's thin. He dealt with some injuries this year. But when he was healthy, he still looked really good. And then he showed up at the Senior Bowl and looked really good. But I think Trevor Etienne could be a late sleeper, but there's also the potential that he's just hurt all year. Bashal Tutin from Virginia Tech, thin little guy, but man, is there some fun. If nothing else, he is going to be a kick returner because that guy has incredible vision. So if you play in a league that adds kick return yardage, bump Bashal Tutin up because I think it's all but guaranteed he returns kicks. And then we'll just throw quickly in here. I like Marcus Yarns. He's actually 23 for me, but that's the undersized running back from Delaware. Shout out to my guy, Rob Ditton, big Delaware Blue Hens fan here. And I think Marcus Yarns, great pass catcher, very undersized. He's going to be a specialist in the NFL, kind of in the mold of like Tariq Cohen was when he was with the Bears, where he came in, didn't run a ton, but caught a few passes and made plays like that.
You can tell we've done so many drafts, Jamie. We've already talked over 20 running backs. It's only been 25 minutes on the show. I mean, that's crazy. You have anybody else you want to add in here? Any thoughts? Anything you want to write after Corey's coattails here?
I just wanted to bring up that Tutin. I like the fact that you said he could play special teams because he might be the fastest running back in this class.
I think the fastest one's probably going to be Dylan Sampson. I think most people have Dylan Sampson higher than I do at 11. Here's some issues I have with Dylan Sampson. I'll talk a couple of guys that I'm a little lower on. Dylan Sampson fumbles a lot. Don't love that. NFL teams don't love that. He has a fumbling issue. And Tennessee's offense is so hard for me to judge. It is the hardest. There's Tennessee and there's Ole Miss. Those are the hardest two offenses for me to watch because it creates unbelievable amounts of holes. For Dylan Sampson will be 7 yards downfield before he gets touched. And yeah, the production looks amazing, but you're like, I got burned by Jalen Hyatt in this offense where I thought was going to be great. I got burned by Hendon Hooker, who we've never seen on the field. Maybe that's not his fault. I was huge on Jalen Wright last year. I'm not out on Jalen Wright yet, but he didn't show a whole lot in his rookie season. So Tennessee's hard for me. And then the other one is Jordan James. I don't know why Jordan James went out from Oregon. I don't understand that one at all. I think Jordan James is barely draftable in the NFL. He's not fast. He doesn't move very well. I think he was absolutely boosted by the Oregon offense around him. So I know some people really like Jordan James. I don't see it at all.
Yeah, I was going to say that I said in the past that Dylan Sampson is a better version of Jaden Wright. So if you like Jaden Wright last year, you're going to love Dylan Sampson this year.
I was going to ask you guys, out of this list, who's probably more likely to shoot up the board? And I'm looking at it. LaQuinn Allen, I really enjoy after you mentioned him. He was at, a passing offense in college? And, he was supposed to come back this year, and he ends up coming into pros. I think he's going to squeeze by a lot of people. People are going to catch him off guard. And then over at the Senior Bowl, he's making great catches. He's doing great passing in practice. So I kind of like him at all your players to probably shoot up the board and surprise people come combine. You guys got any guys in here that you consider sleepers, possibly exceeding expectations?
Oh, I think very late sleeper. If you want to throw a dart at Taj Brooks, I think Taj Brooks is interesting. Huge back, but tons of production. I could see him carving out a role in the NFL where I have 10 carries a game to pound over a defense, including all the goal line work, which for fantasy, if you're playing in a deep enough league and you have a guy who's getting 3 to 5 carries a week inside the 5-yard line, which is where Taj Brooks' specialty is, that's interesting. So just remember that.
That's all I got for running back. I mean, you guys did a great job on that. Hopefully you can help me sort through this wide receiver list. As we transition into wide receiver positions here, we're breaking down this. What are your thoughts on this wide receiver draft class, Jamie? What do you think?
I don't know, man. There's going to be a lot of value in the second round.
Yeah.
Because these running backs are going to be pushed up. And it's going to put these wide receivers into the second round of our rookie drafts that would normally go in the first.
There's a lot of guys in that middle second. It's like, but they got one or two things, but a lot of good names that we're about to unleash here. Corey, anything with the wide receivers?
It's a good class. It's not the ridiculous class of last year. It does not have that type of top end. There's no Malik. There's no Marvin Harrison. I have Ted McMillan with a slightly higher grade than I had Brian Thomas, but I don't expect him to have anything type of rookie season that Brian Thomas ended up having. So it's good. Like Jamie said, it's deep again. I think it's deep. I think that's where the strength of this class lies, is between like 6 and 23 3 or so, you can really change how you like it depending on what you want to go for, because there's a lot of depth again.
Jamie, back to what we were just saying. You said it's a deep class. Probably that second, third. I'm probably going to fill the back end of my drafts up with these wide receivers. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably get like wide receiver 10 in the 3rd round this year. And I mean, there could be like 4 or 5 people that could be in the top, like as number 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's deeper, but it's not like top heavy.
Let's kick off the wide receiver tier. How many do you have in your tier 1, Corey?
Okay, so let's just start with quickly the Travis Hunter discussion. So, for fantasy purposes, if you're playing in an IDP league, he's the 1-1, right? Because he's going to pick up cornerback and receiver rankings. I don't actually have him ranked as my top corner or my top receiver, but he should go number 1. I have him at wide receiver 4. I have him at cornerback 2. So my tier is a tier of 4, and that includes Travis Hunter. My top tier is Tet McMillan, Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka, and then Travis Hunter rounds out the 4th spot. Tet McMillan, I have at 1. I actually have Tet McMillan and Luther Burden very close. I think most people probably have a bigger differential. Between them. I like Tet McMillan. I think he's very good. I think all the comparisons to like big Mike Evans are probably not accurate, or Drake London. I think he's like Michael Thomas. I think he's like Michael Thomas in that I think he's a better route runner than people give him credit for. He just happens to be ridiculously big, so he gets the comp to Drake London or Mike Evans. I think he can win at all 3 levels of the field. Now, a jump ball with him, because he is that big, it's not 50-50. It's 70-30. His hands are amazing. He has a monstrous catch radius already. He will be one of the biggest in the league, behind only like Mike Evans probably. But remember all the knocks that were on Keon Coleman being able to struggling to separate? It's going to happen. He's not fast off the line. When he gets going, he eats up ground in a hurry because he's taken 2-yard strides, but it takes him a while to get going because he's just that big. So if you're talking about like combine drills, I think he'll run a fine 40, but I think his 10-yard split will be slow. It's going to struggle against really good cornerbacks to separate. I think that's my one knock. Now, as big as he is, I'm not sure it'll matter. You can just toss it up to him. To me, if you want to take him at 1-2 in a fantasy draft, that's fine. I'll probably take Omarion Hampton in most cases above him if it's a good, especially if it's a good landing spot. But I think that's kind of where he falls. 1-2, 1-3, somewhere in there.
Interesting. So that's new. McMillan, I thought was the clear-cut one. That was my question to you. I was like, Burden to Egbuka, which would you take? You're saying Burden and McMillan are kind of like dealer's choice there, huh?
Luther Burden gets knocked for having this bad year, and he was playing with atrocious quarterback. Brady Cook was bad for most of the year. Brady Cook's the quarterback is Missouri. And you'd watch him. He's getting open. He's doing everything they're asked for him. Yes, they run, like on that play that you just saw there, they run him a lot of schemed routes, which I don't always love, but he's so good with the ball in his hands. They underestimate his deep speed all the time. People underestimate how fast he is, and he runs right by them. So yes, if you're just looking on pure production, it was a bad year. But I don't just watch pure production. He's getting open. He is getting past cornerbacks. He's getting open in the SEC against some of the top talent in the country. He just wasn't getting the ball a lot. Now, I have knocks on him, right? He rounds his routes because he's so much better than the players against him usually that he rounds his routes. He does not run the crispest of routes. And if you ever watch George Pickens block, which means he doesn't do it, that's the way Luther Burden blocks. He is not throwing a block to save his life, which, okay, it's a game. You want to get paid, big man. Maybe he'll block in the NFL. He's not blocking out there, which is fine. To me, watch Luther Burden, which if you're on YouTube, you can watch it right now, and tell me that that's not Jalen Waddle. Tell me that is not Jalen Waddle reincarnated out there on the field, who, it was a bad year. I think Luther Burden's going to be very good. I would take him in the top 20 if I was an NFL team. No questions asked.
Yeah, I love that. About a month ago, I had a conversation with the Going for Two, Jeff Lambert. I said Luther Burden is possibly going to be my number 1 over Tet. And a month ago, people thought that was crazy. Now we're closer to the combine. It doesn't sound as crazy. And I love hearing you say that because it just backs me up. But I also
you actually did say that. I do remember early on, everybody's like, what? But
and right now, I actually have Egbuka and Burden almost back to back, where I might put Egbuka over Burden. And we'll see. It's just that they're so close.
Abuka plays he plays slot, little kick returner. Burton is what? Burton can play slot, but he's mostly outside, correct?
He can do both. Egbuka can.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you're talking
Egbuka
about
can do both.
Egbuka too. Egbuka plays slot for Ohio State, but that is I think he can play outside too. Like, part of the thing against Emeka Egbuka is he's playing slot with some players around him like Marvin Harrison Jr., Jeremiah Smith, who's going to be the number one. If he was coming out this year, he'd be the number one pick in the draft, but he was a true freshman. That's how good he was. So that forces him to the slot. And then Garrett Wilson, like, there are just so many stars that he has been in the slot. I do not doubt that he could play outside. He is the most boringly good wide receiver prospect that I think I've done in the last 4 years. It's just everything is good. All he had to do was come back and prove his foot was healthy, and he did that. He blocks his ass off. He is a fantastic route runner. No one gets their hands on him from the slot. He has so many releases that he can get open on. Here's an easy one for him. He is the successor to Keenan Allen as the dominant midfield player. The easy successor. That is the career that he could carve out, where he is just 8 catches for 85 yards, 10 catches for 103 yards every week if he gets the right spot.
How would you like to see him on the Cardinals?
I would be great
with Marvin Harrison. I mean,
I'd love that.
That would be amazing.
That would be fantastic. I would love that. I think what we remember Roman Wilson last year, there was a lot of hype about this time of year, Roman Wilson, and it just did not develop at all. I think that's what Emeka Egbuka should be. I think the Pittsburgh should draft Emeka Egbuka and say, okay, you're our number one receiver. We're going to trade George Pickens because they hate him there anyways. And let's just drop him in and see what he can do. But we'll see.
Yeah,
I think Egbuka's an easy first round pick. And then Travis Hunter as receiver it's just hard talking about it because I really want to know what he's going to get announced as a wide. Is he going to be announced as a wide receiver? Is he going to be announced as a cornerback? And whether he's announced as a wide receiver or cornerback really changes. If you're in an IDP league, it doesn't matter. But if you're in an offense only league and they announce him as a cornerback, I probably won't touch him. There's too much of a risk that you don't get anything out of him unless, if he falls to round 4, fine. But if they announce him as a wide receiver, I mean, you want to push him up to top of the first round, go for it because he's really good as a wide receiver.
I was going to ask you this because I think, your top 3 are tier 1, right? There's probably 2 more guys that we can talk that dip into the first round of drafts. Usually. Travis Hunter's your 4, wide receiver 4, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and with him, I don't know, man. If I'm in a small, shallow IDP league, I'm probably passing. I'm probably taking him mid-second round. But if you're in these big MFL ones where you got to start 2 cornerbacks, or I'm in a 64 team that you can start 3, that is a cheat code. So context is going to matter. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, what you said you don't really look at him at wide receiver per se. Is there anything special? Is there anything that pops on film when you look at Travis Hunter?
Well, so it's not that I don't. I think he could do wide receiver and be fine at it. I just think that an NFL team is going to look at Travis Hunter and say, okay, you're a good wide receiver. He's in the mold of Jerry Jeudy to me as a wide receiver where he can win underneath. He's pretty electric. I'd like to see him get a little stronger, but you put the ball in his hands and the dude's electrifying. At cornerback, you can dream on Champ Bailey on this dude or Charles Woodson. He is that good of a cornerback out there. He is so fast. The only time that I've ever really seen him get burned as a cornerback was 2023. Elikayo Minor just lit him up, who we'll talk about here.
I was going to say, yeah.
We're going to talk about him
That's
in a few
your next
seconds.
guy too, huh?
Yeah, but he just needs to get stronger. But I think he's gonna. Here's my prediction. I think he's gonna get announced as a corner. I think he's gonna play nearly every snap at corner. I think you're gonna package him. I know it's the boring approach, but I think you're gonna get 15 to 20 offensive plays a game tops.
Yeah, I was gonna say about 35-40% of the snaps. If he could do that on offense, it reminds me of what they did with Marvin Mims. They build packages for him. He'll get maybe 3 or 4 targets, and we'll see what he does with them.
So great transition point too. Your wide receiver 5. How you say Ao Moore?
I call him Ao Manor.
Yep.
I'm gonna get truck.
Yeah,
he got national
catching Canadian.
He got national attention by just mossing Travis Hunter. I mean, burned him on that 97-yard slap. But even in that game that you were talking about, Corey, he still had a meaningful quality game, even if you take that 97 yards out. But he's your wide receiver. Where are we at? We're at 5 right now. Tell us what you like about him.
Oh, he's just so physical. I mean, you don't see wide receivers that get as physical as he is now. He's listed at 6'2", 210, only a redshirt sophomore, so very young, but he understands like zone routes. He understands how to sit down in zones, make himself available to the quarterback. You hear that a lot. He's good at that. Makes some absurd contested catches. His hands are incredible, but he is so physical to me. That's what's good for him is if it's a slant, he's going to get the ball. He wants the ball. If it's downfield, he wants the ball. He's going to get the ball. Teams will scheme coverage toward him. Stanford was not very good. They'll scheme coverage towards him. He'll be double teamed. He finds ways to get open. He blocks like his life depends on it. He is throwing his body around out there. Now, he's got a little bit of a history of knee injuries, so we got to get that fixed. NFL teams are going to want to look at that with his medicals. And his hands run hot and cold. So I said he has ridiculous catches. He also drops some real easy ones that'll hit him right in the hands because he loses focus on it. But I want to see where the speed settles. If he comes out and he runs 4.42, 4.43, I think he's I think he goes back in the first round. If he comes out and he runs 4.5, I think we're talking top 50 still, but I think he probably falls to day 2. He can win underneath and in the seam. I do like me some Alake Omenor.
I love he's one of my favorites in the class. Like I said about a month ago, Jeff Lambert was like, "Oh, he's going to be a great late round pick," and I'm like, "How do you consider middle of the second round late round?" Because I'm taking him at like 205, and this was a month ago.
Yeah, you're not getting him. He's not going outside the second round.
No way, not at all. I look at him as being like the way he plays. He is like a smaller Mike Evans type player.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I actually have Hines Ward down. Just throwing it back old school.
Oh,
so
one of my favorite Pittsburgh Steelers.
Me and Jamie were talking about this kind of offline. In our super flex leagues, our 14 deep dive super flex leagues, right? Start to, let's say whatever. In drafts this year, we already mentioned the top 5 running backs going in the first round. We just talked about 6 wide receivers. You know a tight end goes in the first. Possibly those 2 QBs go in there, right? You do the math, 5, 6, 11, 13, 14, 15. One of these receivers we just mentioned is going to be there sitting at your 2.1, 2.2 in drafts. That's where I like to lurk, between 2.1, 2.3. I'm going to get a first-round talent because somebody thinks they need to reach on a quarterback or maybe they missed on the running back run. This is the area what you guys are about to explore. This is the area of the draft that I like. That early second, mid-second where you can get some value. Corey, in your next tier, you have there's 3 guys I see you commonly draft: Matthew Golden, Bond, Trey Harris. I can't call the order, so I'm just gonna, the floor is your guys. How do you guys rank them? How do you guys see them as prospects?
So I have the 2 Texas guys next, Golden and Bond, and I actually have them that way. I think Golden is a more well-rounded player than Isaiah Bond. Golden was only at Texas 1 year, transferred in. Great release package. Love that. Shows the ability to redirect to off-target throws, make hands catches. Another great special team player. He's already out there returning kicks for Texas. He hadn't had a drop issue until the very end of the season. He had a couple drops, but he plays bigger than his size. He's not fast, but he's smooth. Teams have to give him space or he'll run right by him. And when you hear the words like nuanced and hand fighting, watch Matthew Golden. If you don't know what that is, watch Matthew Golden because he's not pushing off, but he understands how to just do little elbows and slight hands, and suddenly he's open, and he's very good at it. So I think Matthew Golden is going to be an easy day 2 pick in the NFL draft, and it should go in the second round of most fantasy drafts. Bond has way more upside. Bond has as much upside as anyone in this class. The problem is he's also way more inconsistent. He gets to top speed in about 2.5 steps, and his top speed is lightning fast. I think he's not going to beat Xavier Worthy. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't touch 4.28. I think that's well within the realm of possibility for how fast Isaiah Bond's going to run because it's crazy speed. He doesn't lose it when he's running his routes. He'll play inside. He'll play outside. He's not big. He's strong. I wish they had used him so we could see more underneath patterns because you don't really see him pick up yards with the ball in his hand, which is weird for a guy that is that fast. But to me, there's a lot of like Santonio Holmes in the way that Isaiah Bond plays where he's a little undersized. but he understands he's not just a speed only threat. He understands how to get open by running his routes. Like he'll slow down to find space in the zones. I love me some Isaiah Bond. I am happy to get him at the back. I've got some of the mocks. I've got him at the back of round 2 all day, every day.
I usually see him like middle, like that middle 2.5, 2.7. Couple guys that we got coming up are usually falling there too. But Jamie, where are you seeing Bond go right now?
Yeah, I've seen him actually go early third recently, like late second, early third. And early in the process, about a month ago when I first started drafting, I was taking him early second. But no, I have like after the top 4, we got what Tet, you got Ibuka, Burden, Ao Manor. I'm taking out Hunter right now. So at 5, like I have Golden 5, Trey Harris 6, and Bond 7.
That order is so tricky. The 6, 7, 8 Golden, Bond, Harris that we have.
Yeah.
Because when we first started doing this, Harris was ahead. Now Golden's ahead, and then Bond seems like that happy in between. That's why I wanted to ask the question how you rank them. I don't think you're wrong either way.
I'd be happy with either of them or any player.
And this wide receiver class goes deep. This next, I guess, mini tier, we're still in the mid-second of drafts. You got 2 guys that blew up at the Senior Bowl. Xavier Restrepo, right? You got him, target hog in the end zone. I mean, that sticks out to me. You got the Josh Beck, who was the MVP. You got Noel, who also blew up the Senior Bowl. Excuse me, he's a small slot. And Jaden Higgins, I got to see in person, a big body. Those are usually the next 4 that I see. Corey, Jamie, do you see anybody else over them? And if not, how do you rank those 4?
So I actually have another player in that tier, and that would be the other TCU wide receiver, Savion Williams.
Ooh.
So let's start with, I actually have Restrepo top of this tier for me. I think Restrepo is just a fantastic underneath. He's going to be a slot only option, but he's so good at it. He's so quick, never drops the ball. Actually, he bails Cam Ward out a lot. Cam Ward's throws are not always the most accurate. I'm not a huge Cam Ward. I think he's going to be overdrafted in the NFL and probably in fantasy because I think Xavier Restrepo bails him out a lot. And Cam Ward's running around style isn't going to work nearly as well in the NFL. So Xavier Restrepo is a dominant short field option, adjusting to the ball, throwing well. I don't know if there's that much difference between what Xavier Restrepo can do and what Jordan Addison can do. I think that is within the realm of possibility for Restrepo. So we'll see. I don't think he's going to go in the first round. I think his hands are so good that he will go in round 2, and he's going to be someone that I want in fantasy drafts.
Yeah, at this point in the drafts, I mean, it could be a crapshoot. Like, I actually have Jalen Royals next with Restrepo back to back. Then you got people like Tez Johnson. The guy I love, Jaden Higgins, is running that tier 2.
So, with Higgins, right? Yeah, I don't have any tape on him. I'm sorry. In this tier, we were talking about Restrepo, Josh Beck, Noel Higgins. Where did you put Savion Williams? Where do you have him at in that category? Do you have him right after Restrepo?
Nope. So actually I have Restrepo, then I have Jalen Noel, who is the other. I go Miami, back-to-back Iowa States, so Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. I have Noel ahead of Higgins. It's close. It depends what you really want. Jaden Higgins is the big physical guy. Jalen Noel is more the route runner, but he can also win underneath. Then I have Beck. I think Jack Beck is just good in every aspect of the game without being great at anything. And then Savion Williams to me falls at RB, what are we at, 12 or wide receiver 12? I mean, he is going to break some combine records for the size. The dude is going to break some combine records for his size. Size, strength, speed freak. This is what it looks like. You look it up in a dictionary. There's a picture of Savion Williams smiling back at you. TCU plays him in a true gadget role at this final season. Wide receiver, running back, wildcat quarterback. He high points the ball. Big. The production wasn't always there. It didn't always match the skill set, but for a guy that big, it's amazing how fast he accelerates. There are times where cornerbacks just slip off of him because he's so physical in his routes.
6'5", 225. You're not kidding on this guy. They call him a wide back because he plays the running back wide receiver, 4.49 speed. So he's a developmental prospect, or you like him higher than because I got him wide receiver 13. You think he can excel higher than that?
I have him at 12, but I said if your draft includes kick return yardage, pump him up because I think he's probably going to be a kick returner right away at the NFL level. And then I've been just burned on these type of players before. You can get, I loved LaVisca Chenault. That never worked out, right? I think there's a little bit of Traylon Burks in here where it never worked out, but the upside is through the roof with Savion Williams. If you want to shoot for upside in the third round, if you can get him in a fantasy draft, I think the upside on Savion Williams is higher than anybody in this tier. So above Restrepo, Noel, Higgins, Betch. I'd even put his upside higher than Trey Harris's.
Yeah, some of those guys you were just talking about are going to fall to the fourth round, which is insane.
Yep.
Jalen Noel in my rookie drafts, he's not even listed on Sleeper yet. And every time that I'm in the fourth round, I always put in the chat, I am drafting Jalen Noel at the 405, but I'm taking whoever in place of him.
And Jamie is saying it right. I should have said Noel. He's absolutely saying it right. I keep saying it well. It's absolutely Noel.
Me too. Yeah.
But I could see Jalen Noel go in the middle of the third at a value right there, and like we're getting him in the fourth round, so that's insane.
So we talked 13 wide receivers. This is how deep we are. Now we're kind of like in the mid third, what have you. There's a couple players I want to pick your brain on, guys. Just help me rank them. Jamie mentioned Jalen Royals. He's a shorter guy. I got the interview him at the combine, at the Senior Bowl. He has a high jump of 6'4". He had 15 darn touchdowns. He shattered the Utah record. I'm sorry, 10 touchdowns. But you got him. We got Pat Bryant. We got Torrey Holton. Ricky White's a name that keeps popping up with people. And then Tez Bryant's out there. He set the record over there at the MAC conference with 11 touchdowns. So there's a couple guys still floating. We're talking about wide receiver 14 and beyond. How do you rank those guys? Do you have any other guys? So I guess this would be your final tier, if you would.
Well, I'll start. So Jamie mentioned Tez Johnson earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I have Tez Johnson in this range, but I don't know how it translates to the NFL. Out of production, it should. This is the smallest receiver in the history of the NFL. Like Tank Dell weighed 165 pounds at his weigh-in. Tez Johnson weighed 154 at the Senior Bowl. He's going to be the smallest receiver in the NFL history. And Tank Dell's had 2 season-ending injuries in the first 2 years of his league. So I love Tez Johnson. I don't know how it works. Then Torrey Horton is next for me. That is the Colorado State receiver who got injured. Jalen Royals, you just talked about him. He's very good, but another one, I'm happy to see that he was able to practice because he missed the second half of the season with a foot injury. So the fact that he was even playing at the Senior Bowl was good. So good at getting in off of coverage. I actually have Ty Felton in this group too, out of Maryland, and then Pat Bryant. Pat Bryant is awesome. Pat Bryant is one of the most fun route runners on planet Earth. Let me, Jamie, talk for a second while I pull up something and drop it in the private chat here.
Jalen Royal. I mean, he could easily, depending on landing spot, probably jump into the top 10. So we'll just see. A lot of these guys that we're talking about now, it all depends on landing spot. Like they can have all the talent in the world, and they go to a bad offense, they're not going to produce.
I have a clip that I am working on pulling up here. That is Pat Bryant's route running, which you could teach a clinic on if I can get it to work here. Otherwise, we might just look at it after the show. Why is it not pulling up? I'll show it to you guys later. I can't get it to pull up right now, but it's great. Trust me on that. Pat Bryant, great route runner. Ricky White is instantly.
That's who I was going to bring up.
Ricky White is going to be the best special teams player in the NFL the second he's on the field. I'm going to tell you that right now.
I could see him being more than a special teams player also.
I could see him being more than a special teams player, but any discussion of Ricky White has to start with the fact that I believe he said 7 blocked punts in his career. 7 blocked punts.
Wow.
He is unbelievable at that. I don't know how he is so good at it, but he is unbelievable at that. So Michigan State transfer, dominated the G5 level on a team that never throws the ball. UNLV, I think, averaged 22 pass attempts per game, and he still got 1,000 yards. He's best underneath where he can make people miss, and then he just picks up yaks, like yard after catch in chunks. He does have a little bit of a drop issue, but I think he'll probably be instantly one of the best special teams players in the league, which is going to get him on a team. But like Jamie said, it's not just special teams. I think he'll carve out a role as an NFL receiver too.
I could see him going day 2, like late 2nd, early 3rd round in the NFL draft. I was talking about him with someone yesterday, and I said Ricky White is like a discounted version like a smaller version of like what Tat McMillan could do also.
I like that. So I was wrong on who I was talking about. I thought it was Pat Bryant. It is Daniel Jackson. I put it in the private chat here. Daniel Jackson not getting nearly enough hype for how good he is. Wide receiver from Minnesota. That is the route running clip to end all route running clips. Some of the catches he makes involves contortionist level body control. But he is a smooth mover who understands spacing and tempo. Thickly built, not a big time yak guy.
Ooh.
But watch this route. Watch him sell that. Oh, I put it on a tape. Look at the creation in that down in the end zone area there. I love it.
Oh,
I think
man.
I think there's some Hunter Renfrow in there where he could just win out of the third. But Daniel Jackson is a guy. If you're in a deep draft, you can probably get him in round 4, maybe. And we'll see if the fit is right. Daniel Jackson will be very good at the NFL level.
And you know what? That's your 20th wide receiver. If my math is right here, Daniel Jackson.
20th.
This is how
You got
deep
it.
this draft class is.
I'm so glad to do this podcast with you guys.
So we did at least 20, 25, 27 running backs. We did 20 wide receivers.
Yeah.
That's almost the whole rookie draft right there.
We have
other
problems,
players
don't
I
we?
like.
I mean, we go 7 rounds.
Hey, let me.
I know
let
that you
me
guys do it
recap.
too. There's other players we like. Like
Hmm.
I don't know about you guys.
Oh,
I like Ja'Cory Brooks out of Louisville. I like Jackson Meeks out of Syracuse. I like Kobe Hudson out of UCF. I think those guys are all good. Some names you haven't heard. I don't know if you guys are Juice Wells fans. I know that Juice Wells has some believers. Antoine Wells out of Ole Miss. The Juice
What
is not there
happened to
anymore.
Juice? He's not as fast as he
Exactly.
used to be.
I said it's like he went to Ole Miss and the Juice didn't. It stayed at South Carolina because that's where he played last. The Juice didn't come with him. I don't get
With a
it.
name like Juice, you think you'd have some.
Yeah. And then just one person I got to mention. If you want to take the absolute deepest dart throw on planet Earth, I had Kyron Lacey in tier 3. Now, if you don't know anything about Kyron Lacey then is more than likely going to go to jail, going to go to a prison for killing a person with his car. So nothing has happened yet. I dropped Kyron Lacey to, I think he's wide receiver 45 for me. He would have been easily a day 2 pick, but he's a moron. So
what's this guy's name?
Kyron Lacey from LSU.
Lacey. So you're saying the Kansas City Chiefs are going to draft him because they have the most players that went to jail since 2015.
I remember that. That's
yeah, and they have 16 people that went to jail since 2015.
He has absolutely got the Henry Ruggs thing going on here because I believe it's the exact same thing. So,
hey, let me read this back to you guys real quick. Just a quick recap. I want to make sure my head is straight here because, this rookie magazine is on our brains and people are not cashing in on this. They're crazy. Tier 1, you had McMillan, you had Burden, you had Ibuka, right? Then slightly outside the first round, you have, or maybe even at the end of your first round, you have A.O. Maynor, Travis Hunter, possibly. Tier 2, 6 to 8, we had Golden, Bond, and Harris in that order, right?
I actually have Harris a little lower than that, but I'm fine with that. That's fine.
ADP wise, yeah. And then the next tier, this is where we were kind of a little choppy. Xavier Restrepo led the way. Then I think we had Knoll or Higgins and Knoll, and then we had Josh Beck.
Jack Beckett and Savion Williams for me. Yep.
11-12, wide receiver 13 was Savion Williams. And then after this is that third round, call your shot range. Tez Johnson leading the way. You have Holton, you have Jalen Royals, you got Burton, Pat Bryant, Ricky White. Then you had a bunch of call your shots guys. I didn't really put these guys in order, but you had Juice Wells. You had who were the other names you had in there? You had Meeks, I think.
Avoid Juice Wells. Sorry, don't call my shot on Juice Wells. Avoid Juice Wells. That's an avoid right there. Jackson Meeks is a receiver from Syracuse. He transferred really only 1 year of production. He was at Georgia before that, but then he shows up at Syracuse, which is an offense that was great this year, kind of unexpectedly. NFL size, wins in a variety of ways, 1,000-yard receiver, picks up chunks of yards with the ball in his hands. I like Jackson Meeks. Other ones that are more call your shots. Ja'Cory Brooks. So Brooks was a transfer from Alabama to Louisville, Louisville. Starting to look comfortable there, fit in well in that situation. A lot of off-target throws where he easily can catch the ball. not a burner, but I think he has enough speed to force cornerbacks to think about it. I think he's someone I like. And then if I'm going to really call my shot, I guess I got two more names. That would be, I'll say Kyle Williams of Washington State is a call my shot pretty late. I think he's good with the ball in his hands. And then if there's any kick return yardage in your league, and it's a deep enough league, draft LeJohntay Wester in the last round. I think Wester is essentially the same as Tez Johnson, except with much less hype because he didn't play on Oregon. He played on Colorado, where they had 3 wide receivers who might get drafted between Wester, Jimmy Horn, and Will Shepard. So there was 3 receivers there that might get drafted. So we did not have nearly the production of Tez Johnson, but he's extremely undersized. They list him at 5'11", 167. He's not 5'11". He might be 167. He's very small, but he led the nation in receptions in 2024. So extremely productive in that year. Moved to Colorado, didn't do it, but I think he's going to get I think an NFL team's going to love the potential for him to be a kick returner.
Jamie, I put on my board here, I did a mock we did. This is like going way back, so a lot of it has to be altered, of course. This was a 1 QB tight end premium that we set up. As far as QBs and tight ends go, I mean, you don't have to list them all, but is there anybody you're prioritizing? Is there anybody that we should be aware of? This was what, a 5-round draft we did?
Yeah, this looks like we did 2-point tight end premium.
With a tight end premium, yeah. So I agree with a lot of Jamie's ranking there. I have Tyler Warren 1, 2. I also have Colston Loveland 2. I have Elijah Arroyo 3. You mentioned Gunnar Helm. I actually have Gunnar Helm at 4. Harold Fannon's at Harold Fannon's at
you are high on Arroyo, just like I am.
I have Arroyo at 3. I don't think
I. Yeah.
I think there's a chance Elijah Arroyo is one of the best pass catching tight ends in the league within 2 or 3 years. I think he's basically David Njoku in a couple of years in the NFL. And that's a
former 4-star recruit. He's got that big playability. Yep. He's got natural hands, vertical field stretcher.
Way differently than that part right there.
Great acceleration. He's also a red zone threat and knows how to like box out the defenders. And I don't know, man. Even his after the yak, like after the catch, he's decent at that. He plows over those tacklers, and I love the guy. That's why I have him so high.
And like you said about Fannin, I have Fannin at 5. I know that people want to. I want to believe it too. He was great, even against tough competition, Penn State, Texas A&M, even those teams. He lit it up. He went down to the Senior Bowl. I was not there live like Steve. I watched the practices. He struggled to get open. He was struggling to get open, and if you're an undersized tight end, which he is extremely undersized, you better be getting open. Like Arande Gadsden, if he's listed at tight end, is going to be a cheat code because that dude is a wide receiver who is playing tight end. He is essentially Johnny Wilson from last year, except he got the tight end designation.
So you answered my question because Fannin was 7th in receiving in the whole entire. He set the single season tight end record, 193 yards, and that was a guy I was excited about. Disappeared at the Senior Bowl. We even got him interviewed. I was going to ask why everybody's kind of punting him, but that's exactly why.
Yeah, with Gaskin, man, that dude's got incredible speed. He's got agility for his size, and he's got an elite acceleration and burst. When he's going up against those linebackers and safeties, like he's going to create mismatches.
My fear with Gadsden is that they're going to announce him as a wide receiver, and he's going to lose the tight end eligibility.
See, that sucks because like the dude has advanced route running skills as a tight end, and he's dangerous after the catch.
That is my fear. He never played tight end at Syracuse either. They just constantly listed him as tight end, so we would set records, and he never played it once. I don't think. I never saw him line up in line. I don't think so. I hope so.
With Gaskin
up on purpose because I wanted to kind of heighten. Hey, this was a tight end premium. We kind of pushed him with the board, but Warren, Loveland, those are your cream of the crop. Everybody else has a kind of different. Any guesses why that is?
Preference? I don't know. Different scouting ability. Not sure. But I do want to bring up what we were talking about Gaskin, though. He does play slot a lot. He plays out wide a lot. And the thing is, he could play on the end line as a tight end. So that's why I'm hoping he is eligible as tight end.
I hope he is too. We'll see.
Like His only con is pretty much his blocking ability because like he's underdeveloped as a blocker, but we don't want that for fantasy football. We don't want a blocking tight end. We want a guy that can go out wide and in the slot.
Can we talk some quarterbacks for just a second or two here too?
I was going to bring that up to you, with the exception of the top two. Actually, we'll put it like this.
Well, I'd say there's a top three.
Okay, well, let me ask a question real quick. So Ward and Sanders, right? Is it that close? Is there a tier difference? What do you guys say on this quarterback class in general? But those two guys, is there a difference between the two for you?
Corey, you go ahead.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. So, no, they're both in the same tier to me, which for an NFL draft, I have them both as like top 40 players. I think they're going to go in the top 10 of the NFL draft. I don't think they should. I don't think they're that good. I think they're perfectly fine players who are probably going to get overdrafted because they're quarterbacks. Now, Cam Ward plays extremely chaotic. It got better at Miami. I will say that it got better at Miami, but I still think he plays very chaotic. He's very loose with the football. Shedeur Sanders is the exact opposite. Shedeur Sanders, my problem with Shedeur Sanders, I think he's just maxed out. This dude has been bred to be a quarterback, and he's very good at it. He understands how to take care of the ball. He holds the ball way too long at times, and that's part of it. But I don't think there's a massive arm strength there. My comp for Shedeur Sanders, the entire process for nearly probably 8 months now, is Derek Carr. If you love Derek Carr, you're going to love Shedeur Sanders. Where Derek Carr, there's usable fantasy games in there, absolutely. But have you ever been like, man, I'm so excited to roll Derek Carr out here? Because that's what he is to me. He has limited arm strength. He needs to get the ball out in a hurry. If you really squint, you can maybe get to Tua, but that's about it.
Yeah, Jamie. Besides those two guys, you said you had three in there. Who's your other guy?
Well, I just want to bring up. I love how you brought up Derek Carr, because I have a guy later at quarterback 7, which is obviously not going to be much, but Kyle McCord. He reminds me of like an early career type Derek Carr, with like that strong, like in the pocket with good protection type player. But obviously, he's going to be a backup in the league. But no, Cam Ward. If he was in last year's draft, he wouldn't go in the first round. He would go somewhere in the second. I don't want anything to do with second round quarterbacks, because if you look at in the past, like the first question when I ask myself for quarterbacks is, can they run? Right. So Cam Ward, yeah, he could run.
He can't. He can run, but he's not. We're not talking Kyler Murray here. We're not talking that type of. We're not talking that type of athlete. We're talking about like Daniel Jones, the way that Daniel Jones runs when he's on. Which is, are you ever excited for, say, like, I got the rushing ability of Daniel Jones on my team? I don't know. Probably not. Yeah, he had that one great year with the Giants, but I don't know. That's the way that he runs to me. He is not a burning type of pick up yards with his legs guy.
And in the NFL, just because you could run doesn't mean you're going to be an NFL quarterback. Because look at Malik Willis. Like, that's who I have. What's his name? Jalen Milroe comp to is glorified Malik Willis. But no, quarterbacks, it's hard to scout quarterbacks because the NFL gets it wrong all the time. Look at their number 1 picks the past 5 years. Like, they don't really work out. Then you get the second round guys like Will Levis or late first like Kenny Pickett. Where are those guys right now? They're not even starters, and they won't be starters in the future. So, like, I look at Cam Ward, I look at Shedeur Sanders, I look at Jackson Dart as guys that should be going in the second round that might not even be starters a year or two from now.
So Jackson Dart's the 3 you're talking about?
Yeah, I got Dart at 3, Sanders at 2, and Ward at 1. And it's just by default because there's no one else in this class.
I will say this for Jackson Dart. You're talking about the end of this league. We did a summer scouting show. I had Jackson Dart at 3 at the time in the summer, and I think I was pretty much laughed off. People are like, what do you mean you don't have Quinn Ewers on 3? What is Jalen Milroe on this list? And I was like, Jackson Dart's better than these guys. Jackson Dart's better than these guys.
I almost want to put Dart above Sanders.
I could do that. I will say this. Part of my problem, I mentioned it earlier. The 2 offenses I struggle with are Tennessee and Ole Miss. Ole Miss is tough because it's one read. Jackson Dart is locked onto Trey Harris. And if it's open, it's there. And if it's not, if it's open, he's throwing that ball and he's ripping it in there. If it's not open, he is taking off and running. And he's good at it. He has a great arm. He is athletic enough. You were talking about running ability. I'll think Jackson Dart's running ability. It's not as good as Milrose, but it's better than Shedeur Sanders. It's better than Cam Ward's. He could be like the best version of Baker Mayfield to me. That is what we could get out of Jackson Dart, where it's a pretty good quarterback where if he has the right weapons, he will also pick up yards with his legs, and he is a startable and usable fantasy option. I wish he was going to go later because I'm afraid that people are going to push him up a little bit because I thought I was going to get a good deal all summer. And now it's late in the process, it's pushing up and it sucks. But Jackson Dart is good. Who do you have it for, Jamie? Can I just ask?
It is Quentin Ewers by default, just because, I mean, he's got that basic, like he's a basic pocket passer. He's got a good long ball.
And then Jalen Milroe 5?
By default, just because of that rushing upside. I mean, I don't want to put these guys anywhere, but you have to because there's no one else.
Bows. Fannin sometimes falls. Loveland sometimes falls. There's some jackassery with Dart. I don't know if I'd put him in the second. But anyway, is there any players that I didn't really mention there that we don't see as much that fall in the second to you guys?
I won't take Harold Fannin that high in the second round.
Yeah, that's
even in a
insane.
tight end premium. I won't take Harold Fannin that high. The other thing, I won't take Tez Johnson. I won't take Ollie Gordon, but a lot of the players you named, I think, are fine. I probably won't take Trey Harris there. I'm not going to hold back anybody that does it. To me, he's just a little lower than that. But I think a lot of the players you named should go in that area. Yes.
And then I also seen recently that RJ Harvey is sneaking into the second round.
I love RJ Harvey. I won't take RJ Harvey in the second round.
Yeah, that's too rich for me. But
yeah,
there's a lot of, like I said, the ADP. This is why I wasn't really concerned with this mock in general. I'm just like the ADP is still being set, but yeah, people are doing that and it's throwing it off a bit. Third round. That's usually where I go get these wide receivers because you mentioned 26. There's just so many of them. But guys like, I'm just shooting some names out there. The Tez Johnsons, the Jalen Royals, and then you'll have the RJ Harveys, the Giddens, the Martinezes, the Braylon Smiths. Your guys, Savin Williams. Anything in the third round that you're seeing that's kind of sweet? I mean, of course, we're going to take best player available, but any sweet stuff in the third round?
I don't know if we talked about Brashard Smith a whole lot. I love Brashard Smith. I think I could put him above Dylan Sampson. I don't. I have him right behind him. I could put him above Dylan Sampson. He really only played wide receiver or running back for 1 year. He transferred from Miami to Southern Methodist, and they said, hey, you've played wide receiver at Miami. Why don't you try playing running back for us? And he's good at it. He's really good at it. He's got great hands, of course, as you'd expect from a receiver, but he's got good field for how to run, too. So you may remember, like, I was kind of the guy who pushed. I like Tyrone Tracy. I don't know if I got credit for that or not, but I pushed Tyrone Tracy a lot. And,
you were the first guy that I knew about Tyrone Tracy. Who's this guy? So I was very impressed at you last year.
And that was the same thing, right? He was a receiver who was that receiver at Iowa who produced it. Hey, try playing running back, and he looked really good doing it. And I think I'm not saying that I'm expecting Brashard Smith to be Tyrone Tracy. I don't think that. I didn't actually expect Tyrone Tracy to be that good for year one either. But I think Brashard Smith is a steal in where he went in that draft that you just showed there, which was the back around 3. I would take him at least half round earlier.
His ADP is buried. Like you'd have to find him and look for him in round 3. So that's what's interesting. And he's always like ranked in the top 10, but yet he's buried. You know what I mean?
I'm hoping he comes in with wide receiver slash running back eligibility. I think that'd be amazing.
Heck yeah. Anybody in that third round that you normally see that pops up in there, Jamie, that you like to smash? You used to be a Horton guy. I remember that when we first started doing
Horton.
this.
No, I never drafted Horton. I'm going after Higgins. Higgins all the time.
Higgins is going in a second though now, right?
No, he's third round.
Those big receivers. You're a big receiver type of guy?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's your thing?
I mean, I do like the small slot guys too, just depending on where they're at.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of these the back end, the Knowles, the Josh Becks, even Higgins now, and like people calling their shots into second. Maybe they're trying to get ahead of the third. I don't know. I guess the final question I have for you guys for this one. fourth round. If you're in a fourth round rookie draft, I don't know if you play in these many leagues. Is there anybody out there that you must have, you must own, that if you're going off your board for?
For me, it's Common. Go for it. Go for it.
No, I was gonna say shoot your shot like Ricky White right now. You can get him in the fourth. Jalen Noel. No one's paying attention to him. I don't know why no one's drafting Jalen Noel. I've been taking him in the fourth in every single one of my mock drafts. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
As long as the Quint Allen and Kyle Manon guys' names aren't in the pool, I can get them in the fourth round. And I would draft them 20 picks earlier than that. I think they're that good of players. So as long as they're not in the pool right now, if you're doing a really early draft, you can just like rob people and take them right there. But I think once their names are in the pool and people start knowing more about them and really start diving in, I would not be shocked if they don't go in the top 35 picks.
Oh, so I'm looking at the last draft I did. Savion Williams in the fourth. That's insane.
Yep, good value.
Ricky White in the fourth is insane. Damien Martinez in the fourth. I mean, you can get a lot of value in the late third, early fourth, mid fourth. Gaskin went with almost the last pick.
Very cool.
That's a good point that Jamie brought up. When I went to the Kings Classic this year, I already had like 30 dynasty drafts under my belt, and I had like 40 mocks, 50 mocks, right? So I went in there and I was kind of already knowing the draft bubble, kind of like how we just ratted off all these players this draft, right? There's guys that are just coming back now, or like Labor Day weekend, they're going to be doing some crazy stuff. And as long as you know the batting order, where that pick is and what normally falls there and everything, you're going to be fine. And a good transition to that is our NFL draft guide. It's up to date with all information. Jamie's in there. Corey's in there. I myself am in there. Guys, go over Fantasy Six Pack. Check out the draft guide. And while you're at it, check out my combine cheat codes as well. Go check it out. We got all kinds of players. I don't want to cheat it. I want you guys to go to the site. So go ahead and check that out. Guys, thanks for doing this podcast with me. Corey, Jamie, any closing thoughts, my friends?
Just having a good time. Thank you guys for inviting me on.
Jamie.
Yeah, I just can't wait for the combines just so we can, get more information on these guys that we're looking at.
Heck yeah. All right, man. Well, like I tell people all the time, you guys keep listening. We'll keep making these and talk hard.